Okay, we're on. Good morning. We are live.
Here.
We're all rolling.
Good morning. Welcome to Smith Falls Police Service Board meeting for Friday, December 8th. We have regrets today from Member Councillor McGuire. I will open the meeting with our land acknowledgement. On December 8th, 2023, we acknowledge the sacred land in which Smith Falls is now located has been a site of human activity for over 10,000 years and is rich in Indigenous history. This land is the ancestral and unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation. We're also grateful to the Algonquin ancestors who cared for the land and water in order we might meet here today. We're also grateful to the Algonquin people for their contribution to the making of the Rideau Canal, which runs through Smith Falls. We are mindful of broken covenants and the need to reconcile with all our relations. Together, may we care for this land and each other, drawing on the strength of our mutual history of nation building through peace and friendship, and being mindful of generations to come. I just got a couple, really one set of comments today, and I just want to take a moment and recognize Chief McGilvery, who this is his last Police Service Board meeting. I'm sure your attendance probably totals over 100 meetings, I guess, since you were a deputy chief or chief, and you've steered us through some I think really positive times in our community. So Chief McGilvery, as we all know, is retiring after 36 years of dedicated service to our community. Started November 9th, 1987. I don't know even know.
I was alive.
Okay. I'm just checking. I was hired by Inspector Don Blair. Of course, Chief Bill Stalker was there at the time. You've been under, I guess, Chief Stalker, Hardy and Dowdle before, of course, coming on yourself 7 years ago. And I know I just happened to see your interview with Robbie Hull, and there was a great interview. Robbie did a great job. You mentioned, of course, your father was a police officer in Ottawa. You watched him work in the neighborhood, and I guess in the neighborhood where you lived, and an opportunity to see what policing was at a very young age, and obviously motivated you to become a police officer. And I know you mentioned being chief wasn't something you ever considered at that time, but you started as a young recruit. Obviously, you evolved through the ranks over the years. Highlights in his career, and maybe I'll give you an opportunity to talk a little about some of the things too, Chief, before we move ahead here. But I know you've been very involved with UN. You're 9/11, helping out there as well. A lot of proud moments through your career. You've been special advocate for Special Olympics. Really helped launch that. So I guess at this stage, I don't think I shouldn't talk about it. If you want to talk a moment about, I guess your last meeting, your impact on policing in your community, and your level of policing, and what comes next.
Well, thank you very much, and thanks for the kind words. It has been a great journey. 36 years certainly has flown by, and a great career. Worked with some incredible people over the years. Had some great partners. Had the opportunity to be involved in a lot of investigations, some serious investigations that have had an impact on the community here, and involved in some drug investigations and whatnot, and some projects that had a good impact on the community here as well. And I've enjoyed every step. My years of patrol, my years in criminal investigations, and certainly my years here in the administration as well. It's been a great journey, great people. We've got a great police service here and a great community. And Special Olympics, of course, has always been a part. I became involved in Special Olympics. Chief Stalker and I was working with John Goodhouse at the time, and I remember Chief Stalker saying, "There's this thing called the torch run that's coming through town. You're young and new, throw a pair of shorts on, you're going to go out and run with them." And I was hooked in from there on, and been involved with Special Olympics. And as I said to Robbie, you never give that up. You don't retire from Special Olympics. So I'll still be around for annual torch runs and fundraisers as well. So that's been a good part. 9/11 was certainly a big experience for myself. Tom Blanchard at the time went down with me, as well as a colleague that used to work with us in Smith Falls that was with Ottawa Police, Roy Lalonde, and it was quite a devastating sight to be a part of. But it was nice in that sense to at least be able to go down and help out as much as we could, and met some incredible people down there as well. So it's been a great career. Look forward to the next chapter. I have been doing some training and some capacity building through the UN overseas, and so I'm going to do a little bit more of that. And as we were talking before the meeting, I'm going to try and whittle away at a to-do list around home. We'll see how much of that I can get done in the next year. But it's been great. Really enjoyed it, and I thank everybody in the service for the job that they do, the board for the support. Council and our community as well, that have always supported our local service as well. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you. And I guess after having years and years of shift work and moving into administration, having to be available 24/7, 365 really is for the last 7 years as chief, and that's something the community may not be aware of. I mean, incidents happen during vacations and birthday celebrations, whatever, and it's having that availability. So that's a lot of years of commitment to our community. So thank you. And of course, obviously wish you nothing but the best as you move into semi-retirement, I guess, in some ways.
Thanks very much.
Okay, so moving ahead with our agenda. Any additions to the agenda?
Yes, I have 2 items. One will be 8D under Business Arising, and that'll be the 2022 final budget. And as well, under correspondence, 6B is a letter from Lanark County Mental Health.
Okay, thank you. Ask for approval of the agenda as modified. Moved by Jen, second by Rob. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. I'll ask for declaration of any interest, pecuniary or otherwise. Seeing none, we have a few in-camera items. So the Smith Falls Police Service Board moves in camera to discuss items pertaining to intimate financial or personal matters or other matters that may be disclosed other matters may be disclosed of such a nature having regard to the circumstances that the desirability of avoiding their disclosure in the interest of any person affected or in the public interest outweighs the desirability of adhering to the principle that proceedings be open to the public in accordance with Section 35(4)(b) of the Police Services Act. Motion to move in camera. Moved by Rob, second by Chris. All in favor? Okay, we'll be back probably in 10 to 15 minutes.
And we're back.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. Rising report from our in-camera session. We had 3 separate sessions: identifiable individual staffing, identifiable individuals HR, and we approved in-camera minutes. So moving ahead with our agenda, correspondence from the OPP reference Community Safety and Policing Act. Chief?
Yes, so this is a correspondence that we received from the OPP, and it's with regards. So in policing, we under the existing Police Service Act, there's an agreement provincially that municipal police services that require assistance with specialty services have agreements with the OPP to be able to call on those services. Obviously, the Police Service Act is changing to the new Community Safety and Policing Act. So those old agreements, if you will, are going to be renewed. So they're going to be revamped and renewed. So this letter was just really an assurance from the OPP, from the commissioner, that those services will still exist for us, and that we'll still be able to rely on the OPP for additional assistance in some of our major investigations, things like such as K9, public order, all of those things that we've had existing agreements with the OPP. Those will continue, and they'll be reviewed by the OPP then once the new act comes into play. And they'll obviously, some of the old, it was obviously old wordings, and so it'll all be revamped and go through legal procedures, and then we'll have new agreements in place with the OPP. So that's all this is just to assure this board and to our community that those services will still exist for us, and we'll still be able to rely on the OPP for assistance.
Thank you. Any questions? I know from attending the zone meeting back on November 24th, a lot of changes coming with the new act, but of course it's still a lot of unknowns at this stage.
A lot of it's the regulations. They of course the act's been in the revamp stage since about the time I started as deputy, which 12 years ago. So it's been a long time coming. The act is in place. It's the regulations that so there's so many different regulations so they're trying to put them out in waves. And I know our ministry advisor had indicated they were talking about possibly the summer of 2024. I would hazard a guess you'd be closer to the end of 2024 before we really see a lot of the regulations come into effect.
Well, at the zone meeting, they had a big part of the discussion, because I think it was forecasted for April 1st, and the thoughts around the room is it's not going to be pushed back. And there will be new training for the board, mandatory training that we'd have to go through before we're actually able to cast a vote in the meeting. So that'll come forward. We'll be prepared for it when time comes.
There's a lot of the regulations are deal with boards, board training, but also even with our own front lines with training standards, adequacy standards. So there's a lot of things that are going to come to just clarify what we need to do to maintain that adequacy and provide the level of policing consistent across the province.
Thank you.
The other item for correspondence was the letter from the manager of mental health services, Tom McKenna, Lanark County Mental Health, and the letter was circulated to the board, and it's a call for support really from Lanark County Mental Health. And as this board knows, and certainly our community knows, we have our mobile crisis response team, which is made up of mental health workers and police officers with our service, as well as the Ontario Provincial Police throughout Lanark County. It's been an excellent program and provided some critical assistance to members of the community around the county who are in crisis. And I know we've shown a lot of statistics and data of how the team performs. One of the big ones that's outlined in the letter is just the diversions from our emergency rooms and prior to the program 6 years ago, we were only diverting about 28% of those calls, and we're now diverting upwards of 75% of those calls out of emergency rooms. So that has a huge impact, obviously, on our healthcare system, but it has a huge impact on the victims that are the people that are in crisis, not to have to sit in an emergency room hospital for hours, and to get referrals a little quicker, and to provide that assistance even within their homes before it gets to a crisis situation where they have to be taken to hospital. So it's an excellent program. It's been funded, certainly the Ministry of Health provides some funding. A lot of the funding has come from grant funding that we've been successful in getting, as well as the OPP to fund mental health workers in the program. It goes from year to year. The funding is just a one-year grant, and unfortunately, it doesn't provide a lot of stability when people don't know whether that grant is going to continue the next year. We've seen some of the mental health workers that are on our team that have come and gone because obviously they're taking positions that in other parts of healthcare services where they have a little bit more stability, and unfortunately we've lost some really good workers that way, and so I think it's important, this letter from Tom McKenna to see if not only our board can advocate, but certainly at the council level and county council level, provincially, to get some sustainable funding, that we don't have to do this by way of a grant year after year, that there should be funding. I think the entire province, and quite frankly, you see there's a lot of these right across the country. They've proven themselves, and they've become part of the fabric of our community as far as providing those kinds of services. And I think it's certainly time that the province recognizes that, and they have recognized it because they continue to provide the funding year after year. So they recognize the importance of it, but it needs to be made sustainable so that we're not coming back to the table and sort of starting from scratch almost sometimes, because we're having to try to find people, and you don't know whether are we going to be able to add to our complement, or are we going to have to reduce the numbers. It's always in that planning stages, and by the time you get the funding, you're halfway through the fiscal year as well. So I think so that's what this letter is about, and so I know the board has always been very supportive, and so has council as well. And so I think it's just a case of making our voices known at the provincial level to see what we can do about continuing that funding.
Well, thank you, and I think we've all seen the letter, and I think we're all big fans of the program. I think it's one of the most meaningful, positive steps in collaboration between policing and mental health, certainly I've ever seen in my time here. And you speak to the outcomes are so positive, and not just for the police service and emergency room, but obviously for the people impacted. And I also would think that continuity in that position probably is very important too. And when someone in crisis is seeing the same person they've seen before, probably has a lot of merit and a lot of help. But in a landscape where talent is in demand and people have opportunities in different places for different positions, and if you can go from a contract position to a permanent position, you can't blame the people involved. I spoke to Sylvia Jones, who was Solicitor General at the time, probably 4 or 5 years ago, about this when we were first, funding was still, again, very fragile. And she said at the time, well, I'm a big fan of the program. I really love the program. But here we are 4 or 5 years later. She's now Minister of Health. And we rely on, I guess, 2 ministries really to support this. So the province does need to, I think, commit to this on a permanent basis. The outcomes are unquestionable. One, I think, on behalf of the board, I think we can do a resolution of maybe bring it to the next meeting. I guess we'll design a resolution of a letter of support from Lander County Mental Health for this program. And then from a council standpoint, we have sought a delegate. So upcoming enrollment conference in January, we have sought a delegation regarding mental health and addictions with the Ministry of Health. So if we're successful, obviously we would speak to this at that time. If we aren't, we can still provide support. It's so disappointing when it's temporary year to year and there's no certainty or stability, right?
Very bad effect.
Yeah, so other comments or questions?
I agree.
Okay, so thanks, Chief, for talking to that, and I think we know we have to do more, and so we'll bring that back at our next meeting with a letter of support.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, moving on, consideration of minutes from our previous meeting, November 1st, motion for approval of minutes, or any questions about the minutes? Moved by Jan, seconded by Chris, all in favor? Thank you. Business arising from the minutes. Chief, 2023 budget monitor.
Actually, if it's all right, I'm going to start with the addition with
Sure.
8D, which is our the 2022 final budget. So I did circulate the document that we received from the treasurer with regards to our 22 final audited budget. No real surprises, as we had obviously I had provided updates up until December and sort of through the year where I thought we were. And so we are, I am happy to say that at the end of 2022, we did come in with a surplus of just over $100,000 or approximately 2% of the budget. So our final audited budget was $4,972,383 from an original budget of $5,075,524. So it's obviously in 22 no different than the last number of years, and certainly through COVID, just rising costs and with operational costs, day-to-day costs. Obviously, everything goes into our building and our HR. So I'm very pleased with that outcome, and that we're able to provide a budget that came in under the projected amount and provide a surplus back into our capital reserves. So, subject to any questions with that, I'll ask the board to accept that budget.
Yeah. Questions or comments? No. So I guess we need a motion of approval for the 2022 final, or?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Yeah, we do a motion to accept that as our final.
Okay. Need a motion to accept. Jen, seconded by Rob. All in favor? Got looked after. Thank you. And then 2023 budget monitor.
So 2023 budget monitor, I did, again, I circulated, and it was it's a budget monitor that goes up to the end of October, and not a lot of, and certainly not a lot of significant changes moving from October to the end of November. And I, as I always do, I go into the Towns Assist program and monitor certainly some of the larger operational lines to make sure that we're still tracking well. And I haven't seen anything that causes me any great concern right now. We are trending with a bit of a surplus. We track. We're a little high on our part-time line, but we've had some vacancies. We've had some people off in our full-time and our civilian complement, so that's affected that part-time line, and of course it tends to put a little pressure on our overtime line as well. So those are tracking a little bit high. We do, with some of the people that are off and through WSIB, we do recover some funding from WSIB, as well as through paid duties and other things that offset. So we do have some offset funding that, or monies that come in that offset some of those additional costs in the overtime and part-time line. Fleet, obviously, fuel prices and repairs have tracked high with fuel costs this past year. We've also, and as I'd indicated the board at the last meeting, we had a couple of vehicles that were involved in collisions and apprehending an individual, and so those damages are going to put a bit of a spike into our budget. We also had a vehicle that was with this last snowfall that we had another vehicle that was damaged in it, and so unfortunately these things happen when you have vehicles on the road 24/7. Your chances, and unfortunately we're still out there in bad weather. So there's some spikes that are in our repair lines and fleet costs. Otherwise, quite happy, certainly in our tracking through our costs with regards to our building and other operational costs are all tracking. Some track a little higher, some track a little lower, but overall, quite pleased that we're tracking within our budgeted framework. And I don't see any issues moving into the last month to close off December's budget. So, subject to any questions, to any of the lines of the monitor that was provided.
Questions, comments about year to date?
That salaries line, Mark, that's where the money comes back from WSIB.
There's so it was a new line that was created, and it does assist a little better for tracking. I apologize, I just have to find it. It's called the salary recovery line, and that's where we get funds that come back through WSIB. Then we also have paid duties, which are when we put out when officers work paid duties, and that gets paid out through our overtime line, and then we recover that cost as well. So that comes back into our paid duties, as well as when we use vehicles and we charge out for use of vehicles, that gets recovered as well.
Okay, nothing further. Moving on to 2024.
Yeah, so 2024. So I provided the board with a draft for the council is going to see the town's first draft of budget on December 18th. So this is the draft for the police service board budget. It's an increase of about 4.74%, or just over $247,000. To give some context to the increase, obviously we did budget in 2023 a wage increase. Our officers and staff are without a wage settlement for 2023, so we did budget an increase for 2023. Likewise, we've put in what we feel is a safe increase for 2024 as well, and subject to those to negotiations, we'll see where that lands. But that's put in the budget in anticipation of a wage increase. With regards to at the last meeting, we talked about our CEWs, our conducted energy weapons, our tasers, and the need to replace those. We were looking at putting that in the capital budget originally. We've since, and we were looking into and provincially, and we deal a lot with the company Axon that works closely with police services, actually right across North America, but certainly across Canada and Ontario. And they provide us with our digital evidence management system that's used to manage all of our car cameras, our ALPRs, the automated license plate readers, as well as then for the downloads for data for the tasers. And they offer a program and a number of services, and even here locally in Eastern Ontario. And instead of doing a capital purchase of the tasers, and then you have to purchase, and quite frankly, the big expensive part of the tasers is the cartridges, and the cartridges are upwards of $100 a piece. And and aside from the duty cartridges, officers have to, in training, in annual training every year, have to deploy so many training cartridges as well under different scenarios. So it becomes expensive. Axon has provided police services with a 5-year leasing program in essence, and it basically gives us, and that's sort of the life expectancy of the tasers, the battery packs, the software, and everything that goes with them. And so they've come up with a program, and quite frankly, most services follow this program because it provides a little bit of stability in the budget where you sort of know year after year what that cost is going to be. It provides us with new tasers that are under full warranty. It provides us with all our training cartridges. It includes the holsters, training cartridges, duty cartridges, the software, the ports for the downloads, the connectivity, and the licensing for the DEMS software. So it's packaged up in a 5-year deal and then separated over the 5 years. So we've moved it down to the operational. It's about $15,000 a year. So but it's obviously it's a necessity in the levels of use of force that police carry across North America, and so it just is the better way than to put it in the capital and then 5 years later have to look at where we're at with our tasers again. And then buying the cartridges as well, it provides some stability as to whether the prices change, that you're locked into a 5-year price. So I think this is definitely the way to go. So we removed it from the capital side and included it in part of our firearms budget line for training and firearms. So that's provided. So that's that increase that we didn't see before.
Just before we move on to
Yes.
questions or comments regarding the tasers. So if we had purchased, the capital cost would have been about how much?
Well, and I was low at the last meeting. I had been given a ballpark figure of sort of between the 30 and 40,000. That would have been just barely enough to cover the cost of the purchase of the actual tasers, and then by the time you get into the cartridges, the battery packs, the software licenses, and everything else, it actually works out to a little bit more than what the 5-year lease plan works out to be, and this way we spread it out over 5 years as opposed to buying the tasers up front and then we're still going to have an annual budget of buying the all the cartridges and everything else that goes with it. So it's certainly a better way to go.
And how many did we purchase, or how many did we acquire through the leasing program?
8.
Okay.
That was my question, was does each officer have their own specific to them, or they pick up at each
No,
shift?
we have 8. That provides enough so that obviously all the officers that are working on a given shift have one assigned to them for that shift. It also gives us a little bit of extra if there is one that's out of service for whatever reason.
Okay.
So it's either 75,000 or
It's about 15,000 a year then for the 5 years.
so 75,000 or 40,000, 30,000?
It would be about 40,000 to purchase the tasers and the holsters up front, and then the cartridges. You're looking at each officer has to fire, and I believe right now the standard is 6 cartridges per officer. So you'd be over $600 per officer for
Times 20.
cartridges, 25
Per year?
officers per year. Yes.
So that's
And then that doesn't include your software licenses, because those tasers then also have to have software licenses that are connected to the DEMS.
50 a year again.
15 a year just for training cartridges.
Yeah, 15 a year for.
It's a no-brainer.
Yeah. No, it is definitely a cost-effective wise and just provides that knowing what that annual amount is for the next 5 years.
And if one's broken, it's replaced.
Yeah, it's under full warranty for the entire 5
Plus
years.
control, right? You've got control of that budget line.
Yeah.
5 year.
Okay, good.
And at the end of 5 years,
We'd enter into another, assuming we just enter into another 5-year contract, and quite frankly, I mean, we've gone from what was the X26 to the X2, which is now the X7. And so they have, so within 5 years, you'll have another model that's coming out. And then when provincially, when everyone is going to those as well, it's, you run into issues, now with the old ones, to try to get parts, to try to get battery packs, then you're dealing with cartridges. So it's really the 5-year window is probably about the perfect time to have it renew.
There's a lifespan on them, is there not?
5 years is sort of I mean, it's not that they expire but it's 5 years typically, and that's where we've seen. I mean, we've got 3 that are out of service now, and that's because you can't get them fixed, you can't get replacement batteries for them, and then some. They're an electronic device, and so they just like anything else, they fail, and they just and they can't be fixed.
And there's no opportunity for risk. I mean, we can't have one that's not potentially working. We need.
Yeah, I mean, they go through. The officers, when they take them out every day, they run a test cycle with each taser before they go out, and obviously they have to pass that test cycle, and if they don't, they're taken out of service.
Basically, getting the units for the cost of training per year.
Yeah.
Super.
End of the day, so.
Okay.
So other areas just of highlight for the 24 budget, we've and as I just indicated with the tasers, but along with that IT support, and I know even everywhere everything is IT based and licenses, software, third-party support that we use as well. We have our annual things that we for our mobile crisis response. We have our Health IM, which is a third-party company that provides us, that tracks all our data for our Health IM calls for service, our automated license plate readers and the licenses that go along with that. And then, as I indicated, our DEMS, our digital evidence management system, which has really proven itself. And again, those are licenses that we have to have a license for each user, both civilian and officers, to bring any evidentiary items into our system, which then get disclosed as evidence in court, and so it's proven itself quite well. It's an excellent system that really assists in officers in gathering, whether it be digital evidence from a convenience store or a gas station or from a witness account, and it can be brought right into our system obviously through proper firewall channels and whatnot, but it's brought right in and gets put right into the Crown Brief disclosure. So those are the types of things that with IT, certainly then support with upcoming. We've got our NG 911 system as well that we've been fortunate in getting a lot of grant funding for that, but there's just ongoing pressures on IT. So that's an area that, looking at all of our different software usages and our hardware and everything that we have to buy, that line has just been under a great deal of pressure, and so we've increased that line. Other areas that and operationally, we've tried to keep some of the operational costs and increases reasonable. Some areas that obviously that we don't have a lot of control over, our insurance, for instance, our liability insurance for building has gone up. It went up 20% in 2023, and it's we received the figure for 2024, and it's up another 19%. So when you start looking at increases of 20% and 19%, that obviously has an impact operationally on budgets.
We're feeling that across the board corporately.
It is, and that's and it's no different. I mean, our utility costs, just the costs of maintaining the building. When you're dealing, contractors, everybody's prices have gone up. Supplies have gone up. Everything that we buy on a day-to-day for supplies have gone up. So that translates into some small increases throughout the budget. Fuel, cost of repairs for fleet maintenance. So all of those areas are included in that 4.75%, and certainly looking around the province and other municipalities and police services. I can say that we're probably on the low end of some of the. I've seen double-digit proposals. I've seen proposals that are up in the 8 and 9%. So I think at 4.75, I think we've really towed the line in providing a pretty fiscally responsible budget to this board and hopefully to council. The other area that I just wanted to bring up as well with regards to 2024, and there's a few things because I know that and Mr. Chair, you brought up with regards to the board's increase in responsibilities with the new act and training and whatnot. And so we had talked about it earlier in the year of making sure that we have enough funding in the board's budget to accommodate some conferences, and taking advantage of training opportunities. So with that, I've put some increase in the travel expenses and conferences, which is conferences takes into account obviously any training, and there is going to be mandatory training. So I think it's wise to include to put a little bit more money in that. I've also included that we didn't have in there before, and it's two lines. I haven't got them shown in here just because I wasn't able to. This is the town template, but with regards to IT support, obviously with some of the services, and just to keep it separate with regards to, for instance, our streaming services for our meetings, our email, the secure email sites for the board members and whatnot. So I was looking at keeping that separate as board costs as well. I know the board has looked at using some legal or some consulting type of professional work, and I thought that maybe then it should translate with a budget line for the board with regards to that, as opposed to the police operational line. So I've included $10,000 in a legal consulting line, $3,000 for IT and for IT support, and then as you've seen, I've increased then the amounts for training and travel related expenses. So that's so obviously subject to questions. That's in essence where we're at for this draft that I'd like to propose to council.
Comments, questions?
What's that $245,000 increase? Is that what we're looking at? What was the?
Mm-hmm. Well, and I noticed the grants item is void of any grants in there, and is that because we don't know if it's application based? And
yes, partially, as well as most of the grant funding that we get, really that so some of the grant is captured in the salary recovery, because we if we're using some of our resources that's included that we get grant funding for, that'll go back into that line. It doesn't go back into our salary line. It goes into the recovery line. So that's taken into account in that recovery line. There's a couple of the grants our victim service grants are the one is our community safety and policing, our locals grant funding, which is indicated in there, which is about $61,000 that we get in funding, and that goes towards our community services officer program. Most of the other revenues out of the grant are offset with expenses. So when, for instance, in the NG 911, whatever we get in grant funding, other than I do have where we have the line, again, the recovery lines where project management and IT resources gets funneled back into that line. So we do see some revenues that come out of that grant that go back into our budget. And but otherwise, all of the other budget is for NG 911 is for expenses of hardware and software and implementing the system. Likewise, our victim support grant, other than a portion of that's dedicated for an officer that administers or assists with that grant. Most of that funding pays for additional training, both for some of our partner agencies as well as for our staff as well. So most of those grants end up sort of a net zero. Any of them that do have funding that comes back into the budget, we've captured it in the recovery lines.
Okay, thank you. Other questions or comments?
No, I think all of us are seeing, increases in our own budgets, both business-wise, obviously personal-wise. So I think you really captured, obviously the increases we felt in 2023, but also really looking forward to what could potentially go into next year. So I think it's a really balanced and well-rounded. So the increase, in my opinion, is just felt everywhere, not just in policing.
Well, my only thought before we have a motion for approval, I'd like to talk about our strategic plan because I think we may need more money in the budget to try and help with the preparation of that. So I'll defer any approval of the budget until we come back to the end of the meeting after we've had a chance to discuss the strategic plan and how we're going to proceed with that drafting, design, development, and completion.
So there's an item on the agenda for the strategic plan update. Do you want to go back to the budget after that, or are you talking about another meeting?
No, after that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
No, good enough.
I think we need to make sure we approve this today,
Yes.
But I think we also need to have consideration for getting that completed.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions here? Okay, so let's just park that for a moment and then move ahead. And I believe the next item is a strategic plan. Yes.
So with the strategic, and I'm going to leave it to yourself to provide the update on the strategic plan.
And the deputy. So the service has gone through an extensive consultation process, and we had 2 public meetings last week, led by Deputy Chief Ampe. Not great turnout, unfortunately, but those that were there were quite active and with questions. But the public surveys were put back out today. We've had stakeholder surveys out, board surveys that we all need to make sure we complete before the end of day today, myself included. And so a lot of information is coming forward, and we know we need to consolidate this information into our new strategic plan. And so my concern is just about staffing capacity to be able to actually draft the strategic plan when there's a lot of other duties and responsibilities, and essentially our service will be somewhat shorthanded as of January 1 when you step into retirement. So I guess I don't know if the deputy wants to provide any further update on the information that's come in so far. I haven't seen it, but you probably have a good idea of the amount of the volume of information that's come in that needs to be considered.
It'll need to be captured. So Carrie from the town has been really helpful with us to put everything together on a spreadsheet. So we'll be able to look at all the data, all the comments, and the community survey is staying up for another week. And then the internal ones we've kind of left open to complete, but we should be putting a deadline on that as well. And then compiling it all in January. So that would be our goal would be for Carrie and I and maybe a board member. So we would look at all the data together and then be able to put it forward in a plan. I would personally suggest not to make it an expensive undertaking. Municipal services across the province, smaller ones, keep it pretty simple. We just don't have the budget to make it fancy. And to be fair, the public likes to see it online, so you could put together an online package as well as have copies made, but not everybody will take a copy or want a copy of the plan. So you want to keep it as frugal as possible and keep the cost down, but having that information for the public is what I would suggest. But
So we had it as the board had authorized Member McGuire and myself to meet with the deputy chief and sort of formulate the direction of the plan and the consultation, and the deputies really carried the ball on this. So I think it'd be important to go back, and the board itself has not had a discussion with regards to really the development of the plan from the standpoint of key performance measures or indicators, different things we would like to see in the plan. And we have the old business plan to refer to, but this obviously is sort of a redraft. It's a 4-year plan instead of a 3. It has maybe some different focus. So it's important, I think, for the board to have those discussions as well. So I suspect our next board meeting in hopefully early January, we can get deep into the parameters we want to make sure are included within the plan. But to your comment, it's a matter of making sure we have, I guess, the capacity to do it. And so I'd like to propose that we maybe just have another $10,000 in the budget, just as a placeholder. And if we end up being able to do it internally, then that'll simply add to our surplus. But I think it's important to me to ensure we have some money in there to be able to get the plan actually drafted and completed, recognizing that we'll be somewhat shorthanded as of January 1st, and the ability to physically write the plan we may have to outsource that to someone who's either has some understanding or is going to be heavily involved in consultation with the service and the board in developing that. So I just want to make sure we have the ability to move forward in a proper manner without putting too much burden on administration.
Is that a new line or a temporary line?
Well, if you look at the boards at the end of the budget, the board's got $10,000 there for legal and consulting. I just suggest we increase that. Sorry. Yeah, just increase that to 20.
Yeah, or I mean, it could. I mean, and part of the rationale of that 10 was thinking a little bit about things such as the strategic plan. So I mean, we might be able to. I mean, I know we're not talking about a big difference, but we could perhaps say even 15 instead of 20, and I think it would capture. Certainly, by the time when you roll around into January. I mean, this is the first draft to council. There's always between first draft and second draft. Sometimes at the end of year costs come in and budget lines tweak, a couple of $1,000s here and there. Maybe by the time January rolls around, the board might have a better idea of whether it's something that they're going to be able to tackle themselves, whether it's something that they're going to, what a quote would be from somebody that can assist in bringing that together, that maybe it's $5,000 or $3,000, that it would give a better idea that then by the second draft of the budget, we could fine tune that number a little bit. So I just throw that out to the board as well. I'm fine with, if you want to set it to 20,000, we can do that. We can tweak that when it comes time for the second. We'll have more information by the time the second draft rolls around. That if anything, we'd be able to go back to the town and drop that number by a few $1,000s.
Yeah, my understanding that the broader picture with the town budget, I think I'd rather get it inserted first draft, because if anything, we're probably going to be trying to cut after that. Between two reductions in 2 provincial grants and our increase with our shared services agreement with the county, council had previously given staff a 2.9% increase to work with, and that's absorbed with those 3 items. So it's going to be a challenging budget year. So I think I'd rather get the 10 in now, so that if we can always pull it out later, at least we know we've got it in there now.
Thank you.
So I guess the working group, if anybody else, I guess we have to have only 2 board members on the working group. So we'll get working on that hopefully in the next couple of weeks and start to get the information compiled and be prepared to have a broader discussion on the development of the plan in January.
Okay.
Is there any timeline that has to be completed by?
It is supposed to be in by the 1st of January, so we are past that date. It's not, there's no penalty, there's no, we don't disband because we don't have a strategic plan. We operate under the existing strategic plan, but ideally January 1st is when the ministry wants to see those in place.
Does every police service do that in the area, like OPP? Do they? I've never seen a survey. All the years I've lived in the township, I've never filled out a survey.
I'm not aware that the OPP per se do surveys, because obviously their strategic plan is done at a provincial level. So I don't know that I think somewhat throughout the year they do their own types of data collection, within the various regions, obviously, to determine what their needs are for the different regions, the different communities. But it's obviously done at a much higher level provincially. Municipal services do it. It's mandated in the Act, and so our partners in Brockville, Gananoque, Cornwall, Ottawa all have strategic plans that they put together. And the ministry, since our last one, has expanded. It used to be you had to do it every 3 years, and they've expanded it to being able to do it every 4 years.
So Chief, perhaps we can have the board secretary distribute just a few different examples of smaller service strategic plans, just so the board has a chance to sort of look through some of them. I know I looked at Kingston's, it was done fairly recently. I'm not sure what Brockville, Cornwall.
Yeah, we can look on their website, maybe send out some links. That most of them, and as the deputy said, and even our last one, we really don't. There's not a big cost in the printing. We don't print very many copies anymore. We always sent a couple of copies up to the town. We've kept a couple of copies on hand in case somebody came in and was looking for a copy. But we don't print off very many. They're available. Our current one is on our website. Our past ones are on the website, and so it's really that's been the way of the future. So as far as putting one together. Yes, it'd be printing of a couple of copies, but for the most part, it's putting it together for a web-based version.
Okay.
So we'll get
Any
that.
other comments or questions? Thank you. Moving into new business.
Well, just going back to we'll go back to the budget item. And one thing, and I apologize that I didn't finish with the capital. As we discussed at the last meeting, and so certainly for this meeting for the capital, we've as I said, we've removed the taser item, put it into the operational. So the items remaining for our 2024 capital is a fully outfitted patrol SUV. So that amount, when you break down the cost of the vehicle, which we get through a provincial cooperative pricing, and then we have a third-party company that does the manufacturer provides a lot of the pre-wiring and some of the pre-lighting for those vehicles and the interiors. Then we have a third-party company that comes in then and installs things like our light bars, the computer systems, camera systems, and everything else. So there's that cost breakdown, the decaling of the cars as well. And so that taxes and everything included is approximately $80,000 is what the quotes come in at. So that's what we've put in for the capital expenditure there. And then the $25,000 for our next generation 911. And further in the meeting, I've got an update with our NG 911, but this is money we've put 25,000 into a reserve for the last 4 years. This will be the 5th year. It'll bring us up to about 125,000 in that reserve. The NG 911 project we're starting, in fact, this month with some of the installation of some of the hardware is going in next week, as a matter of fact. And then into 2024, we're hoping with our hosted solution with Owen Sound to be able to go live by about the summer of 2024. The deadline that every service has to be switched over is March 31st of 2025. The big issue with not waiting till March of 2025. The obvious thing is, if it doesn't work, you can't. Bell isn't going to host the old legacy service. It's NG or nothing, according to what they're saying now. And the problem is right now is Bell is having a difficult time getting all of the clients, because they have to schedule all the all the changeover for everyone. And so it's important to get into that queue and get going sooner than waiting. If everybody waits to the last quarter, to the first quarter of 2025, nobody will be getting in. So that's what the timeline is. This reserve of the 125,000, obviously, like anything IT related, and I know I'm a bit of an older dinosaur when it comes to the IT stuff, but things just don't always work according to what they're supposed to. There's always some hidden costs, whether it be training, whether it be additional components that need to be added in at the last minute to interface with current systems that we have. So the board, rightfully so, has been putting money aside to offset any contingencies that will arise during this next year's changeover, and also that it gives us the opportunity, if we need some third-party IT support for our IT to get this done. It's a big, daunting task, and keeping in mind our IT services is very limited. We have one IT support person that has many other functions as well, so it would allow us to bring other people in to assist in that changeover as well. So that's where that extra 25,000 is again. So that's the extent of the capital. So
Pretty minor. Thank you. Questions or comments? I guess we will hopefully by mid next year have it fully in place, but it actually won't be live until the province goes live in 2025.
No, it will go live. It's the legacy, what they call the legacy 911 system will still be operating. The NG 911 system will be operating in the background, if you will. It will be operating properly and in full function. It's just not mandated until the end of to the end of March 2025.
So if someone someone could text 911 then?
That's my understanding. Is once we do go live, I don't want to speak out of turn. I'm going to say that there is going to be a bit of a transition time from going live and making sure the testing is all done and that everything's working properly. But my understanding is, yes, that it'll be full function once we go live, whether it be in the summer of 2024 or maybe more conservatively by September of 2024, that it should be full functioning.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so that's it for the budget. Any further overall questions or comments regarding the budget? So I'll ask for motion of approval for 2024 budget. Moved by Jen, seconded by Rob. All in favor? Better get it. All in favor? No? Okay.
4.7 is too much.
Do you want to discuss it further?
No, I'm just stating that personally.
Okay, okay.
4.7. If I did that in my own business, I'd be out of business.
Okay.
I'm just saying 4.7 is too much. I just don't like to willy-nilly continue every year adding 200,000 to the budget without looking for other spots.
Okay, so I guess I'll go back. Is there, moved by Jen, I think seconded by, did you second Rob?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so all in favor, show of hands, and opposed? Okay, thank you.
All right, I'll send those figures to the town treasurer to include then with the town's budget. My only comment would be that nothing's willy-nilly about the budget.
Completely, but we just keep adding and adding and adding, and nothing. No offense to anybody personally.
No.
It's just an observation. It's not a.
No, I couldn't agree. I'm not, and I certainly wasn't taking it personal. I just don't want it to be considered that any part of our budget is willy-nilly, and I know that, as you indicate with contractors, certainly prices have gone up everywhere.
Absolutely, and when you don't know what your labor's going up, that's a real problem. It's a guess, an educated guess is all it is, and I can appreciate that is a real problem. So.
Thank you.
Okay. New business. Chief, the grant update from NG 911.
Yes, so again, we've just been advised that we got the second round of 3 rounds of funding for the NG 911 project. So it was about $328,000 in funding to keep that project moving ahead and to pay for everything, obviously, that's hardware, software, and labor related to get that system put into place. So that round of funding is up to to March 31st of 2024. There's one final round of funding that the provincial government has committed to. I think it's the smallest of the three envelopes. So, and quite frankly, at that point, we should sort of know where we're, if there's whatever is left over, if you will, that we need to do to make sure that the system is fully operational. The funding wasn't designed to necessarily pay for every cent of NG 911 upgrade. We've been fortunate that it has pretty well covered everything that we have, although we have the $125,000 for a reserve. I'm hoping that in the final round of the funding that it should cover our expenses to get us up and running.
Well, and that's encouraging compared to where we were a year ago when we were expecting to have to cover a lot of that.
There was a lot of uncertainty before the provincial government committed to assisting with this project, and rightfully so. It's something that has to be done across the board, and so there was some pushback on government to provide funding for it. They stepped up and have done that, and quite frankly, it's been beneficial for us.
Questions there? No, thank you. On to item B. I think we're an exciting announcement, and Chief, I'm going to turn it back to you to share this. And at the end of it, we'll also have a resolution from the board.
Thank you. I am very pleased to announce that our deputy has agreed to accept a contract to be the acting chief of police for our service moving forward into 2024. It's very exciting. I know for me, working with Jody for all of these years, it's certainly great to see her achievements and her accomplishments rewarded, and I certainly hope that the next step is dropping the acting position. So certainly with we have Jody Empey as our new incoming chief of police, and I'm very proud to have worked with her and to have her continue on. Thank you, Jody.
Thank you. So I'll just going to do a resolution first, and then deputy / acting as of January 1st. If you want to take a moment to make a few comments, it'd be appreciated too. So. So the Smith Falls Police Service Board appoints Deputy Chief Jody Empey as acting chief of police as of January 1st, 2024. Need a motion for approval. Moved by Chris, seconded by Jen. All in favor? Thank you. Deputy Chief, incoming acting chief, you have a couple comments you'd like to make?
Well, thank you for the opportunity. Hopefully the acting position will be a short one. It'll be a big responsibility taking on 2 roles, but I'm prepared for it. So worked here a long time and happy to keep the service going the way it's been going.
30 years of dedicated service.
Thank you. We're deeply appreciative. And now, Deputy Chief, the manager's report.
Okay, so we'll see if it comes up on, I might not see it on the screen, but, oh, there we are. Okay, so for calls for service for the month of November, we had 584 calls. We had 23 collisions, 40 traffic complaints, 79 traffic enforcement stops. There was a total of 41 charges laid under the Highway Traffic Act of Ontario, and 11 charges laid under the Compulsory Automobile Insurance Act. Our step target was intersection safety. There was 5 charges laid for red light offenses, disobey stop signs, improper stops. And our December step target is focusing on impaired driving, alcohol, and drug-related offenses. And we've already started our ride programs. Not sure if you've been through one yet or not, but we are doing our festive ride programs, and that continues into January as well. So some of our alcohol, drug, criminal-related traffic offenses, when officers are stopping vehicles, they also come across criminal offenses. So one driver was failing to comply with an undertaking, one obstructed a police officer, two were caught trafficking in a Schedule I substance, being cocaine, one was failing to comply with a probation order, and five were driving motor vehicle with open container of alcohol. So that's part of our alcohol enforcement. Proactive patrol that we do within our community, 43 hours of foot patrol, 36 hours of other community service. So that's with our community service officer as well, who engages in different parts of our community, serving lunches, that kind of thing. And 18 hours that we had in our schools with our officers visiting the schools. Some of our noteworthy calls for service this month were 5 assaults, no break-in enters, bail violations were 5, 4 compliance checks done. We did 10 warrants. 2 actually were done yesterday with OPP, CSCU, and the two or three offenders are in bail today. So we'll be putting out a really good press release. I'm so happy with the warrant. There was over 584 grams of cocaine that were seized out of this warrant. Again, working together with our partners. Yeah, unbelievable. As well as weapon, gun, like ammunition, that kind of thing. So we know that there's guns, of course, in our community, but very, very happy with our officers and the OPP CSU team that worked together on this. They did a phenomenal job. So we'll be putting out a press release later today with the names once the information's before the court. So 22 intimate partner violence offenses, no sexual assaults reported, and mental health related calls were 25 with a 12% apprehension rate and approximate 1 hour and 25-minute average wait time. There was a couple of the longer wait times, and I've explained before that sometimes if things happen overnight, their staff doesn't work, but if you have the ones that are the really critical ones that have to have officer present, the violent ones, and ones that need the extra supervision. We had one that was 4 hours long, for example, that we were dealing with. So it's a tough time of year as well with people, and that can increase with Christmas coming and different things like that. It does not always a happy time for people. So we do see an increase in domestics and mental health during this time of year. Our CIB, CISO branch still very busy, obviously, with the drug enforcement that they're doing. They're also dealing with the active missing person file. OPP had undertaken the Tompkins one, or the Robbie Thompson one, sorry. His was more outside of our jurisdiction. However, Bertram, we are the lead in that one with OPP. And again, executed the 3 CDSA warrants. And the mayor, I'm sure you're happy as well. Aberdeen was executed, Lavina and Helen Street, because I know that there's been an increase in complaints from our community members, and rightfully so. When you live next door to people that are in and out, and the traffic and the drug activity, you don't want that in your neighborhood. So we're working hard to. It does take time, and it's hard to explain that to the public. But you do need the information, you need the intelligence gathering, and all that has to go before a justice of the peace to approve a warrant to enter a house. So there is a lot of moving parts to do warrants. So hats off to the men and women that are doing our drug enforcement. And then also, actually, our crime unit officer was in the area of Anderson Avenue, and he happened to see a guy trafficking narcotics there as well, right by Duncan J. School. So that was a great one. He got him with 1/2 ounce of cocaine on him, and that kind of shut down that Anderson Street address that we'd also had issues with as well. Community service, Sean, of course, he's out there he was helping Duncan J decorate trees. We were all out for our Remembrance Day, of course, honoring our veterans, and then doing the holiday train, just one of many things that we involve ourselves with, as well as the situation table, VITRA meetings, case conference, MCERT team meeting. We also did an MCERT media blitz with them. And unfortunately, that's when the body was found on Highway 50 in the same day. So that took highlight of the media, but we're just trying to really put out there the importance of the MCERT team to our media as well. Collection for winter clothing. So we did a collection clothing drive with Ford dealership. That was really successful, actually. And I think someone's still looking for a girl size 11 boots. So we're still doing with that with the association. He did a Christmas cheer walk with Duncan J, and he engaged with WAC with Big Brothers Big Sisters, and of course assisting with frontline duties. So jack of all trades, as we all are in our service. Other training, we both, the chief and I, attended the OACP conference in Aurora, and that has to do with the new act that's coming, as well as participating in the community safety wellbeing meeting. I'm co-chair with that, so we haven't had a busy month because we're doing the strategic plan there as well. Sexual assault investigation course, and we still have an officer that she's just finishing the IDENT course. That's a 9-week heavy-duty course, being away from home, and she's currently sick right now and having to do with some exams, so she's almost done. And we had a human trafficking conferences as well. And that is it, the end of the manager's report. Just making sure, yes, unless you have any questions,
Okay, questions or
comments, or,
comments?
Sorry,
What was the number of grams again?
sorry?
What was the number of grams of cocaine that just raced yesterday, was it?
Well, we're gonna put out a press release, but it was about 584. Yeah, so we'll also provide you with a dollar value as well, because I want to make sure I'm accurate on the dollar value, but pretty amazing.
Well done.
Yeah,
I wouldn't know.
yeah. Yeah, so,
Oh, I guess, again, always busy.
always busy.
It's just time of
Oh,
year.
yeah, 100%, yeah, and our officers are, working hard on some short staff, because of course, that's a high time for illness as well, so we're,
A lot of, and as the deputies indicated, a lot of resources, a lot of time. It's when you see the result of one search warrant, the number of hours and resources and human resources that goes in to each one of those. So certainly, again, hats off to our staff and the staff of the OPP that we have a great partnership, and a lot of hours goes into planning, working on these, gathering intelligence, and just to put one warrant together, and then when you look at everything else and all the calls of service that go together, I think that speaks volumes to why we have the service that we have.
we always say that drugs know no borders, so if they have information, we have information, work together, and
Well
get it
done. And
resolved in our community, so.
especially, I know some of the ones, as you mentioned, we've had concerns from certain neighborhoods. And
Yes,
it's great to see the
absolutely.
action
Yep. Yeah,
following through and getting some
yeah,
arrests made. Good stuff.
yeah,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you. Date and time next meeting. So as we plan for 2024, and we've been inconsistent with our meeting dates, which I think is creating a little frustration for all of us. So I'd like to be able to pick a certain date each month, sort of every 4 weeks roughly, whatever, that we can all agree would work for us. So I checked in with Councillor McGuire, because he does have a full-time employment, not a lot of flexibility, but he said Tuesday or Wednesday mornings would work best. So if we wanted to pick, if that works for everybody else, Tuesdays don't work for me because I hospital board meetings some Tuesdays, but Wednesday mornings. Okay. And
Historically, the thing there is we've always had a day, in the past, it was a Thursday at 8.
Mhm.
And I just think for all of us, especially here, as running businesses and commitments, the middle of the day or the afternoon absolutely will not work for me, because I can't tell you that I don't get an insurance claim at 10 o'clock, and unfortunately can't get here. So I'm comfortable with 8. And then we're not, I don't know if that works for everybody here. 8 or 8:30 are fine. But
8?
the easier part there, if that works for everybody, then we're not jockeying around. It's Wednesday morning at 8 o'clock and it's the last Wednesday of the month or whatever. It just works that way.
So considering we're early this month, but everyone would be comfortable saying, I think it's January 10th would be the second, plan for the second Wednesday, and we're consistent at that.
The only thing I'm not sure what the date is for council, even for the second draft of budget. And I know we usually try to make that meeting sort of to fit, just sort of that if there's anything that needs to come to the board.
I think it's later in January.
Later in January?
Yeah, I think that'd be okay.
We should be, that's fine.
Okay.
Are
So
we
I-
gonna say the second week moving forward? Like it'll be the second
Second
Wednesday
Wednesday,
of every
8
month?
o'clock?
That conflicts with Chamber of Commerce for me. So
Sorry?
that conflicts the Chamber of Commerce is the second Wednesday of every month.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
Okay.
but what's the third Wednesday look like? Is that
That's the
17th.
17th, that's fine.
That works.
Yeah.
Wednesdays, as long as I'm
Okay.
easy with
So let's-
whatever.
so we go with the
works
third
for
Wednesday.
audience.
So it should be January
Yeah,
17th. But we may hold a special meeting earlier in January regarding the strategic plan, if we can.
Special meetings different than,
Yeah.
we can all jockey around a special meeting as opposed to
At least we can get this.
adjusting schedules for the
Yeah.
main meeting. which is
With a
most-
special meeting, typically you would just have maybe one agenda item if it's.
Exactly.
So it can be fairly quick.
Okay. So we work with the third Wednesday each month, starting January 17th.
Perfect.
And we get our calendars for 2024. Okay. Well, Chief, I'll give you any closing comments before I ask for adjournment, being your last official duty with the Police Service Board.
Thank you. No other final comments. I think I've said it all and had the chance to be a part of it all. So thank you very much for all of your support over the years.
Well, thank you for 36 years of policing, and as I mentioned earlier, especially with the role of chief, 7 years as chief, there is no break from it. We know that it's 24/7, 365. There may be days when nothing's happening and when you're off, but you're always aware, and I know you're always attached to your phone and anything comes up. So certainly enjoy the next stage of your life, and we know that's not full retirement, but enhances your ability to spend more time with your family, but also more enjoyment of life and your work with the UN. So again, thank you for all your contributions to our community.
Thank you. I'm sure for the first few months, I'll be wondering whether this thing's still on or not, but it's all good. Looking forward to it. Thank you very much.
I think probably only one person might need to reach out to you every now and then. That's me.
And the phone will always be on.
Thank you.
so you'll be a scratch handicap then?
I'm not sure that I'll go that far.
You'll scratch.
According to my play last night at the indoor golf at Boston Pizza, it was I'm not close to scratch yet.
More time for practice, hopefully. Okay, motion for adjournment. Moved by Chris, seconded by Rob. All in favor? The Police Service Board adjourns proceedings at 9:43 a.m. We're done. Thank you.
Thank you.